The wind always felt colder when I saw Olivia. It was like she brought the chill of the past with her wherever she went, one gust of icy wind after another. And though I loved Jonathan with all my heart, there was something about Olivia that unsettled me. Something unpredictable. My name is Claire, and I never thought I'd be the woman who found herself in a toxic triangle with her husband's ex-wife. But here I was, stuck in a fight for my happiness against a woman who couldn't, or wouldn't, accept that her marriage was over. Jonathan and I had been together for almost a year when we bought our first house. It was the kind of place you imagined in your dreams. White picket fence, cozy porch, the sound of birds in the trees. Everything was perfect. But it wasn't long before I realized our fresh start would never be simple. Not with Olivia still lurking in the shadows. The first few weeks after we moved in were blissful. Jonathan and I settled into a routine, laughing at silly things and savoring the small moments. He had 2 daughters from his previous marriage, Emily and Sophie, and they were sweet, well-behaved girls who were growing fond of me. It felt like everything was falling into place. But there was one problem I hadn't accounted for: Olivia. One Sunday morning, Jonathan was out grocery shopping with the girls, and I decided to spend a quiet day at home, unpacking boxes. But the peace didn't last long. As I went to the kitchen for a coffee refill, I froze. There, on the doorstep, was an envelope, bright red, with my name scrawled across it in a hurried, frantic script. I bent down and opened it, feeling the weight of what I was about to read. My fingers trembled as I pulled out the note. "You think you're special, don't you? That you're the one who can fix Jonathan? But you're just a temporary Band-Aid on a wound I'll always be able to touch. You're not his real love. I am. Just remember, the past never truly goes away." My breath caught in my throat. The letter smelled faintly of lavender, a scent I recognized. It was the perfume Olivia used to wear. She was here, watching me. Over the next few weeks, Olivia's behavior grew more erratic. I tried to tell myself it was just a phase, something she would eventually get over. But the small incidents piled up, each one more intrusive than the last. The first major blow came when I was out on a run, something I'd done almost every morning. As I turned the corner near the park, I saw her, Olivia, standing at the edge of the sidewalk, staring at me. I slowed my pace, unsure of what to do. "You're still running, huh?" she called out, her voice sickly sweet, but with a tone of menace underneath. "It's funny. Jonathan always used to run with me when we were married. He'd never let me run alone." I bit my lip, trying not to react. "Olivia," I said, trying to sound calm. "Please don't do this." "Oh, I'm just reminiscing," she said, her eyes narrowing. "You know, the life we used to have, the life you're trying to take from me." I felt a knot form in my stomach. Her words stung. But what struck me the most was the look in her eyes, intense, calculating, as if she was waiting for me to break. But I didn't. I stood there, chin raised, refusing to let her see my fear. "Listen," I said, taking a step back. "Jonathan's moved on. I'm with him now. It's over. You need to let go." Olivia smiled, but it wasn't a smile that reached her eyes. It was empty, cold. "Oh, I will let go, Claire. I'll let go when you let go." And with that, she turned and disappeared down the street. That night, Jonathan and I talked about it. He was confused and upset, but I tried to downplay it. I didn't want him to feel like he had to choose between me and Olivia. But it was clear to both of us that something was seriously off. Then came the next wave. It was late one Friday night when Jonathan and I were in bed, both exhausted from the week's work. The house was quiet, just the sound of the wind outside. That's when I heard it, a soft knock at the door. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then there it was again, more insistent this time. Jonathan stirred beside me. "What the hell?" he muttered, getting up to check. He returned moments later, his face pale. "Olivia?" he said simply. I felt a chill run through my body. What was she doing here? Jonathan opened the door to find Olivia standing in the doorway, holding a bottle of wine. She smiled brightly, but there was no warmth in it, only calculation. "I thought we could catch up," she said, stepping into the house without waiting for an invitation. "I know it's late, but I brought wine. You two deserve some celebration. I just wanted to stop by and say how happy I am for you both." Jonathan looked confused, but I felt a stab of unease. This wasn't just a casual visit. This was an invasion. "Olivia," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "this isn't appropriate. You can't just show up here." She didn't respond. Instead, she turned to Jonathan, placing her hand lightly on his arm. "You know, I still remember when we used to have dinner parties here, before everything changed," she said softly. "Remember those nights?" Jonathan's expression faltered. I saw it, the brief flicker of nostalgia. It wasn't that he wanted her back, but the history between them was undeniable. But I wasn't going to stand for this. "Olivia, you need to leave, now." Her eyes flashed with anger, but her smile didn't waver. "Fine," she said, turning to leave, but before she could go, she turned to Jonathan. "You know, I was always the one who really understood you. Claire might be nice, but she'll never be the one who knows you like I did." That night, I lay awake for hours, heart racing. This wasn't just about Olivia missing Jonathan. She was actively trying to destroy what we had. I couldn't let that happen. I loved Jonathan with everything in me, and I wasn't going to let some ghost from his past haunt us. Over the next few weeks, Olivia escalated things further. She started showing up at our favorite places Jonathan and I had gone to when we first started dating. One evening, we walked into a bar, and there she was, sitting at the bar with a glass of wine in hand, staring straight at us. "Having fun without me?" she asked, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "It's nice to know I'm still invited to the party." It was then that I knew something had to change. I could feel the walls closing in around me. Olivia wasn't just grieving a broken relationship, she was becoming obsessed with destroying mine. The final confrontation happened one afternoon when I came home early from work. The door was slightly ajar, which immediately set my nerves on edge. I stepped inside, and there she was, Olivia, standing in our living room, going through our personal things, our wedding photos, the letters Jonathan had written me. I froze. "What are you doing?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Olivia turned, her eyes wide with surprise, but then that same twisted smile crept across her face. "I thought I'd just see what you two had built, see if it's really as perfect as you think. But I'm sure Jonathan never told you about the little things we shared." I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. This woman had crossed a line. "I've had enough of you," I said, my voice steady but cold. "This is my life now, and you need to leave it alone." She stood there, staring at me, but I wasn't backing down. I refused to let her control my life any longer. And for the first time, I saw the crack in her facade. Her eyes were filled with something raw, fear, desperation, but also something more terrifying, a willingness to destroy everything in her path to keep Jonathan in her grip. "Jonathan will always be mine," she hissed, stepping closer. "You'll see." That was when Jonathan arrived. He walked into the room and saw us face to face, Olivia standing in his house trying to tear everything apart. His expression was a mix of shock and anger. He took a deep breath, his voice low but firm. "Olivia," he said, his tone cutting through the tension. "This is enough. I don't want you here anymore. You're not welcome in our lives. You have to move on." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Olivia's face twisted in fury, but it was no use. Jonathan had spoken. It wasn't the easy, quiet ending I had hoped for. But in the end, Olivia was forced to leave. It took time, but slowly she retreated from our lives. No more uninvited visits, no more passive-aggressive messages. She had to face the truth. Her obsession was her.